Scattered around, aren't we? That's why it wasn't coming through. Oh, you broke the whole thing, did you? It's over here. Oh man, put a tie on this guy. He's going to do everything. Are you doing supper tonight as well?
Yeah, I've cooked
Steaks all round. Steaks all round.
tomahawks tonight.
Yeah. Tomahawks. Oh, you're not going home until they're finished. Yeah. Very good. I appreciate those stepping up. And Gemma's on the prayer cards. She's handing them around. Around. I have no missionary letters or anything to read, so just go Gem. All right. Any prayer requests tonight? Oliver.
Pray for the missionaries in school.
Yes. You can say it again for the people at home now.
Pray for the missionaries in school.
Yeah. Update on the school. We handed in a letter. We had 14 days to respond. We handed in the letter yesterday. And now we wait. We pray and we wait. So anyway, it's in God's hands. He's brought us this far. We trust him the rest of the way. I don't really know what's going to happen, to be honest. Or how it's going to, rather, I don't know how it's going to play out. I do pray for our missionaries as well. Jude.
Safe travel, brother Josh and the family going to Banbury.
Yes, so they are, yep, they're heading down tomorrow. They're packing up. Friday, you're packing up tomorrow night, and then you're heading down first thing Friday. So, and Josh will be bouncing back and forth a couple of times on Friday. So they're going to go down early. He and Ken, I think they're leaving like 6 a.m. or something, going straight down there, unpacking, and then he's going to drive the truck, or Ken's driving the truck back up with Josh, and then Josh is going to get his car and drive down. So yeah, just pray for their safety as they do that, and as they shift into a bit of the unknown, to be honest. Gemma.
Pray for Mr. Deary's salvation.
Yes, for sure. We do. Tony.
For Aaron and Kelly, they got married yesterday.
Yes. Now, I mentioned last week about he and being a giddy little schoolboy. And then as soon as church was done, I got a text message from Aaron talking about being a giddy little schoolboy with laughing emojis. So I know this is his first day of being married, but I presume right now he should be watching live, he and Kelly, so.
Loved the video.
Oh yeah, the video that was put up here as well. So, as is. Yeah, that's it. A bit raw. That's it. So yeah, he and Kelly got married yesterday, last night, 10 o'clock. Yesterday in Ireland. Interesting to be married on a Tuesday. Is that a good luck in Ireland?
Pick a day it's not raining.
Yeah, pick a day it's not raining. Pick a day that's not booked out as well for wedding venues. So yeah, no, very good on them. Pray for them. Some of you have met Aaron. He's been over a couple of times. Spent 6 months, 12 months here. A year, I think, and then Aaron came a little bit for the shorter period. So yeah, he spent over a year here. Yeah, very good. Pray for them. Good blessing. Any other prayer requests this evening?
Just everyone who's sick.
There are a few people that are sick with the Fagan flu.
Yeah.
That's what Naomi coined it today. The Fagan flu. She said that Connor was not feeling the best. She said that she wasn't feeling the best. Cottle wasn't feeling, but it's very good. They're not here tonight. She said Tony wasn't very good, but Tony said he's okay. And then she said Amelia. So that's why we can call it the Fagan flu. It's James. Oh, there we go, the Fagan flu. So Theo is not the best either. That's why Rihanna's not here. He doesn't have the Fagan flu. He got some other strain, some other variants. Yeah, I don't know what the. But yeah, he's got some stomach problems as well. So kids, they're always sick. Any other prayer requests? Any prayer requests? Kim.
Just the fellowship meetings on Saturday, and for those that are heading down, just traveling mercies.
Yeah, there are some that are heading down, and again, I think Sunday's going to be pretty light on as well. So come back Sunday. Jeremy and Nadine are getting baptised on Sunday. Oh, that's exciting for that. So Sunday morning, the heater's broken. Come back, Jeremy. No, we'll fix it. Yeah. Any other prayer requests? Man, it's quiet tonight. Ben.
Pray for the city.
Yeah. Is there like a sticky note in that chair on that computer? If you're in that seat, you have to give that prayer request. Yeah. So it's Cottle's usually on, but yeah, pray for the city. Had a couple of first-time visitors on Monday night. You never know how it's going to go. Who's going to show up and who's not. Ben.
Another one. I have my driving test tomorrow, and tomorrow's going to be the last one.
Amen.
So I need the prayers, please.
We can be Pentecostal, just you name it and claim it. Blab it and grab it, or whatever. No, I do pray for that. So tomorrow at 11:15. So close last time, and just one silly little thing that the instructor. Anyway, he's hoping. This is an honest prayer. He would like to get the same instructor he had last time, who was really good, and that would be a blessing. But anyway, leave it with God. Just pray for him. He's hoping that he has caught his last Uber.
No, he will be.
Yeah. Any other prayer requests tonight? Just. He's got. Yeah, sorry, I'm delaying it here to try and get something out of it.
I know most everybody is busy. We're praying more attendance in the camp, I think.
Yeah, actually, family camp, is right around the corner, and still working out what to do with these, with the camp speaker. But we'll work it. God knows. But yeah, no, it's gonna be a good camp. Weather's, I'm excited about it. Get down there and plenty of room. As Mr. Archer would always say after baptisms, and yet there is room for more. It's true for family camp as well. Yet there is room for more. All right. Take your Bibles. How about that? Take your Bibles. And turn to Job. Maybe you're light on the prayer requests because you're saving up all your feedback and your comments for the Job 39. I'm sure that's what's taken place. Job 39. Now God is responding now to Job out of the whirlwind. And Job 39 says this, we'll read along here. Verse 1 says, Knowest thou the time when the wild goats of the rock bring forth? And canst thou mark when the hinds do calve? Canst thou number the months they fulfill? And knowest thou the time when they bring forth? They bow themselves, they bring forth their young ones, they cast out their sorrows. Their young ones are in good liking, they grow up with corn, they go forth and return not unto them. Who hath sent out the wild ass free? Or who hath loosed the bands of the wild ass? Whose house I have made the wilderness, and the barren land his dwellings. He scorneth the multitude of the city, neither regardeth he the crying of the driver. The range of the mountains is his pasture, and he searcheth after every green thing. Will the unicorn be willing to serve thee, or abide by thy crib? Canst thou bind the unicorn with his band in the furrow? Or will he harrow the valleys after thee? Wilt thou trust him because his strength is great? Or wilt thou leave thy labour to him? Wilt thou believe him that he will bring home thy seed and gather it into thy barn? Gavest thou the goodly wings unto the peacocks, or wings and feathers unto the ostrich, which leaveth her eggs in the earth and warmeth them in the dust, and forgetteth that the foot may crush them, or that the wild beast may break them? She is hardened against her young ones, as though they were not hers. Her labour is in vain without fear, because God hath deprived her of wisdom, neither hath he imparted to her understanding. What time she lifteth up herself on high, she scorneth the horse and his rider. Yea, thou hast given the horse. Yea, hast thou given the horse strength? Hast thou clothed his neck with thunder? Canst thou make him afraid as a grasshopper? The glory of his nostrils is terrible. He poureth in the valley, and rejoiceth in his strength. He goeth on to meet the armed men. He mocketh at fear, and is not affrighted, neither turneth he back from the sword. The quiver rattleth against him, the glittering spear and the shield. He swalloweth the ground with fierceness and rage. Neither believeth he that it is the sound of the trumpet. He saith among the trumpets, Ha, ha! And he smelleth the battle afar off, the thunder of the captains, and the shouting. Doth the hawk fly by thy wisdom, and stretch her forth her wings toward the south? Does the eagle mount up at thy command, and make her nest on high? She dwelleth and abideth on the rock, upon the crag of the rock, and the strong place. From thence she seeketh the prey, and her eyes behold afar off. Her young ones also suck up blood, and where the slain are, there she is. I'll read a few verses into 40 as well. Moreover, the Lord answered Job and said, Shall he that contendeth with the Almighty instruct him? He that reproveth God, let him answer it. Then Job answered the Lord and said, Behold, I am vile. What shall I answer thee? I will lay mine hand upon my mouth. Once have I spoken, but I will not answer thee. Yea, twice, but I will proceed no further. Then answered the Lord unto Job out of the whirlwind and said, Gird up thy loins now like a man. I will demand of thee and declare unto me. And he goes on, and we'll look at that next week. But I just wanted to stop there, go a little bit further tonight. Job 39, God's response. Thoughts, comments, feedbacks, observations, verses. What do you got tonight? What have you got?
I think it's impossible to respond to it in as much as God's challenging us here. And the answer to it is chapter 40, verse 4, where Job says, Behold, I am vile, what shall I answer? I lay my hand upon my mouth. With all those questions that he puts, I lay my hand upon my mouth.
Yeah.
Because we just don't know.
Yeah.
That's it.
Which is the purpose of the questions.
Exactly.
It's absolutely the purpose of the questions.
More abstract. But it's not in context.
Yeah, it's the... God never asks questions that he doesn't know the answer to. starting with where art thou, Adam, at the very beginning of the Garden of Eden. He knew where he was. He was asking for other purposes. He was asking Job. He was asking Adam, and he's asking Job the same thing. He's asking questions that he already knows the answer to for Job's benefit. Any other thoughts? Connor?
I like the way in this chapter it talks about the testimonies of God's creation in the animals.
Yes.
I like that because like we were talking about in the previous chapters where it talks about the heavens and the rain and the thunder and everything like that. But in this it talks about how the animals are created and how things happen, and like the horse is strong and not afraid of battle, and a man can sit on his back and he goes forward. And then you have like the unicorn, a rhino, like he can't sit like by your crib, like he's off doing what he's doing, and such power, and they all have a sort of a role. But it's God declaring that He made them in a specific way, and it gives glory back to God to say He made them a certain way. And they're like the ostrich. It's like void of wisdom.
Yeah.
It has no wisdom, but God didn't give it the wisdom like He gave the horse the wisdom, or
That's one of the verses I was going to highlight, that because when I was going through, normally at this time I'd say, Josh, do you remember when we were in school together? Not anymore, can we do that? But when I was in school, Pastor Harris, who was the principal at the time, he used to, one of the things he did for chapel on one of the days, or maybe a term, I can't remember when it was, but he took an animal that's found in the Bible and he used that animal and taught the animal. So it was about the ant, go to the ant, thou sluggard. He did lions, he did other animals, it always captivated me that the use of the animals in the Bible and how he used them for the kids and the character trait that they portray. You have a sluggard in the Bible, it talks about a sluggard from a slug, or the slothful from a sloth. There's character traits. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, and consider her ways and be wise. She's diligent, so diligence personified as the ant. And lots of animals have those things that can be taught to us. And this whole chapter here is absolutely about the animals, you're right. But I find it very interesting that he does say that, that the ostrich has been, God has deprived her. She has hardened against her young. And it says in verse 17, because God hath deprived her of wisdom, neither hath He imparted to her understanding. Animals absolutely have personality and traits, and they are two-part beings. They have a body and they have life as well. Man is three-part. Man is not just an evolved animal as scientists want to tell us today. Man is made distinct and separate from the animals. Man is a living soul, three-part being. Animals are two-part beings. Plants are one-part beings. God has put this spectrum in the animals, and not all of them are wise and not all of them are good. Some are smart. Some animals are very smart. They say dolphins are very intelligent, and they say chimps, they've been training chimps to do stuff, or they're mimicking. Dogs can learn to all manner of different tricks. But he doesn't speak very highly of the ostrich here. God hath deprived her of wisdom. When I was up in Newman, general, I can't remember his name, he's from Germany, his wife's a Filipino, and he was there at the mental health. And I made mention that have you ever noticed, like Shane said, he said, have you ever noticed that sheep don't get depressed? They don't ever seem to get depression. He goes, why don't animals get depression? Saying about how depression is why thou cast down over my soul, that it's a soul sickness. It's something that's in humanity, to be able to have this reflection and self-reflection and things like that, where depression comes from. And he came up to me afterwards, he said, well, I've heard that ostriches have been known to commit suicide. And I was like, I'd never heard that before. And he was serious. He was watching a documentary that ostriches have been known to commit suicide. And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, I've never heard that documentary. I've never heard that before. But the verse that came to my mind was this verse, that as much as they might say, well, the ostrich is depressed or it's having a low day and wants to go commit suicide, the Bible says that, and I said to him, the Bible says in Job that ostriches have been deprived of wisdom by God. So there are some animals that are just plain dumb by design, and they're not depressed. It's just a dumb animal. And God is saying, I made it dumb for my glory. The way that it acts, the simplicity of it, is how I designed it, Job. And it's like it doesn't even care about its young. It just puts it in there and then it kind of forgets that this is probably not a safe place to leave eggs. And she goes off and does the thing that the foot of man may come along and crush it, because it's just a simple animal. That's what simplicity is. In Proverbs, it talks about that the simple are supposed to get wisdom and understanding. How long you simple will you love simplicity? And so Job says that there is a character trait amongst humanity and amongst man that are simple beings. And simple just means not complex. And so have you ever seen children and teenagers? Teenagers at times are very simple. It's whatever they think in the moment, that one thought that is passing through their mind is all-encompassing to them, and that's what they do. So, for instance, if they're walking down the hallway, a little narrow hallway like we have here going out to the supper room, and they look at their shoe and they think, my shoelace is undone. And what are they going to do? I'm going to stop right here in the middle of a walkway where people are going, and I'm going to do my shoe. Because their little simple brain is thinking, shoelace, must do shoelace. There's no other complex thinking that's going on. There's no other strand of thinking. Maybe I'll just take 5 extra steps and get to a place where people aren't. And maybe I shouldn't just stop in the middle of the way where people are walking and trying to get around me. That's the simple thinking at times. And he says to man, he says to mankind, how long will you be simple? Don't be simple. God calls us to be more than just simple, but to be wise and to have understanding, and he calls us to those things. But the ostrich isn't like that. There's no book written to the ostrich how them to be wise and have an understanding heart. And God is saying, well, I made the ostrich simple. And some animals are very clever and very intelligent, and others are simple. And God says, I did that. Job, I put that my fingerprints are on the animal creations. In the animal world, God is saying, I did that. Did you do that, Job? Did you deprive the ostrich of its understanding? Now, again, a scientist will come along and say, well, the ostrich just hasn't evolved. Its brain came from something else, and it was this and that, and it's still part tree. I don't know if that comes from trees, but they're just saying it's got the long neck, so it could be a tree. But it's just saying, well, it's just not evolved yet. And God is saying, no, it's actually fully evolved. It's exactly how I created it, and it's doing exactly what I created it to do, for my glory and for my purpose, for the variety that is in this world. He talks about the rocks, the wild. Verse 1, knowest thou the time when the wild goats of the rock bring forth? Have you seen those mountain goats? The ones that climb the dam walls? It is absolutely that. It is unbelievable. And I think, why on earth would God create a goat that climbs sheer cliffs? Why would this happen? What's the purpose of this? I think it's just purely for man to look and say, what? Who thinks up this stuff? And God is saying, I just did it for fun. Make a goat climb a rock, and you're coming along, and here are these goats up there. Here's man with all his harnesses and his ropes and his chalk on his fingers, and the goat's just going. It's like God does that, and he's saying, do you know these things, Job? Do you know how to get those little? Are they hoofs? What do goats have? You're the animal scientist over here. Do they have hoofs? They don't have Nikes. They don't have Nikes. Nor do they have a 3-point harness either. They're up there, and they go up and they come down. And he's saying, do you know how these things happen? These wild goats, and off to the mountains they climb? And he's like, I don't know these things. And I think also God does these things just for man to come along and to be able to say, wow, how do they do that? And now how can we take that technology and work it into some other system? Because how many times does man use the natural world as inspiration for inventions and understanding and knowledge? What does an aeroplane look like? It looks like a bird. It's a really big bird. And there's the designs, the aerodynamics. Have you seen the, what is the stealth bomber? What's the stealth bomber compared to, is it a Falcon? It's identical. The shape of it from side angle of a Falcon in the air is the same shape as the stealth bomber. And so they say, man, look at the design of the stealth bomber. All they've done is taken what God made in the natural realm and has taken God's wisdom and applied it. And I think that's exactly what God does in the world. He's put all scenarios and different kinds of things in place of wisdom that's in this world just for man to come along and say, you know what, I can learn something from this. How did that goat get up there in the middle of a sheer cliff? You know what, we can use that as inspiration for this tiny little part over here as we use it in our machinery and our business. And it's really, God says, right, yeah, it's my wisdom is there to be learnt from. And he says, but know this, Job, can you work it out, why they there and how they carve and all those things and how they can wander around the wilderness, and I've made their habitation the wilderness. They live in the desert and yet they live. They find grass and they roam around, he says, and yet they survive. He says, isn't that amazing, Job? Could you do that? Make an animal that lives in the wilderness? I make the wilderness and then an animal to live in the wilderness? Could you do that, Job? All of these things are meant to blow Job's mind to think, you know what? I have no idea how to do any of this. I really don't know how to put the stars in motion, what we were talking about last week. I don't know how to wind the astronomical clock up and have all of the stars stay together and how to have this world rotate the way that it does and have this amazing world. We never even mentioned the treasures of the snow last week, which I love. The treasures of the snow, it talks about the treasures of the snow in chapter number 38. We know today, because we have the micro photography that enhances in HD, amazing photography of snowflakes and how they have is it 6 points and the even geometrical pattern, is that the right word for it? It's absolutely perfect mathematical formulas in it, and they're completely no two are the same. Amazing. And he says, Job, have you ever considered the treasures of the snow? And he's talking about a time long before Galileo and anyone else made the telescope, and then they refined it and made the microscope. Before all that, he's saying, right, there's an amazing world to discover and explore here, Job. And what you are discovering are my fingerprints. That's what God's saying. You're merely just discovering my fingerprints and the wisdom that I put into this world. Could you do this, Job? Can you make this world? Can you make it work? It's an affront. It's an affront to a holy God to say that everything that is in this world just came about by some cataclysmic fluke of nature. No, this world is well put together. There's order and symmetry and style and beauty all put into this world and how it's made in every aspect. And God is saying to Job, can you do any of these things? Can you do any of it? Any of it? A unicorn is mentioned. That's an interesting animal. We're talking about unicorns in the Bible. Unicorns. What's a unicorn? Are we talking about little rainbows and with streamers, colourful streamers coming off its neck? A unicorn, there's two ways of looking at this. One is that a unicorn is, if you go to the zoo, we have a zoo pass, I mentioned this the other week, we go to the zoo, you go to the rhinoceroses, and you have the Indian rhinoceros, which is known as Unicornus rhinoceros. That's the Indian rhinoceros. It's a unicorn, it's a single-horned rhinoceros. You get the dual horn with the big horn and the little horn, and there's the Indian one that has just one horn. It's called a unicorn. Unicornus rhinoceros, the single-horned unicorn. There is also in India, which is interesting to say that the unicorn is in India, but there seems to be also that the ox, there's a type of ox that also had a single sort of horn as well, that there's pictures from the Indus Valley civilizations in the northern part of India, that there was another sort, and a wild ox may fit this as well, if there is a single horned ox, because that fits as well. He talks about bullocks, and he's talking about the goats, and he's talking about the over here, the hinds, the wild ass, the unicorns. So that kind of fits in that kind of type of animals. But either way, the point he's saying is, can you go take that animal if it's a rhinoceros or if it's a wild ox? There is apparently Caesar, or is it Caesar? Which Caesar? I can't remember which Caesar it is now. Let's just say Caesar, because they're all Caesars, aren't they? The Emperor of Rome. He said that there was an aurochs. Someone help me out on this. Anybody study this stuff? Is there an aurochs or something? Maybe I'm pronouncing that wrong. But he said it's an ox that was the size. He says we know that the aurochs are the size of an elephant, which was this ox that apparently is extinct now. But there's historical records of Caesar, whichever one, Caesar Augustus may have been, that makes mention of this aurochs that was the size of an elephant. Now, if it's a baby elephant, that's like probably what an elephant is about. Baby elephant about this big. So if you have an ox that's about this big, that's a big size ox. So anyway, there's historical records of that. And he's saying, can you go take that wild ox that cannot be harnessed, because God is saying, I've made it that it cannot be harnessed. Are you going to try and harness it? Because you won't be able to. It's wild by nature and it can't be tamed. Even though James says that all animals can be tamed, God is saying there are some those that will be domesticated naturally and easily, and then there are those that are not going to be domesticated easily. Tyrannosaurus Rex. No, well, I don't know. No, I can neither confirm nor deny that, but it would seem logical. But that's what he's saying. He's saying, look at the animal world. And God is saying to Job, look at the animal world. Look at the eagle and his eyes. Look at the hawk. Look at the horse. Look at the ostrich, the grasshopper, the peacocks, the unicorns. He says, look at these ones. He says, can you do any of this? Any of it. Just pick one, Job. I'll give you one. If you can just do one, you'll be passed. He'll give you a pass mark. And Job says, this is what Job comes to. He says this, behold, I am vile. What shall I answer thee? Because really, remember, for 25 chapters, they were arguing like they knew everything. Like they were the bee's knees in all knowledge. Like we have a full understanding about things, and they're arguing about who God is and how God operates and all of these things, that they were they were the doctors and the professors of this subject. And now God comes on the scene, asks them just a few series of questions about the natural world. And Job says, you know what? I'm vile. I actually don't know. I was talking well beyond my pay grade and acting like I knew it all. And there's a verse, again, if Josh was here, he'd call out the verse. It's in Psalms. And it says, I will not behave myself in things too high for me. And so often we act like we come in like the professionals on subjects that we actually have no idea about. And we exercise ourselves in matters that are way higher than ourselves, and we just go, oh yeah, you know, it's this and this and it's this, and oh yeah, why don't they do this and this and that? You know, it's simple. And that's how we operate. And that's how Job and his mates were operating. And God comes along. Simple? Oh yeah, well, the goat climbing the rocks. You're going to get them up there with those little non-Nike feet? And Job says, you know what, there's so many things I don't know. And there's really two parts to what Job is saying, what God is saying. One, his honor is seen in the natural world. And two, it brings humility to Job to realize the honor of God. And he's humbled and says, you know what, I'm going to lay my hand across my mouth. Good advice. Now that's the Bible way of using words that we don't normally use, like up, shut, but not in that order. Lay thine hand about you. He goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to up, shut in a lisdexic way. That's what he's saying. I'm going to lay my hand across my mouth. I'm telling you, there's solid wisdom in that alone. If that's all you walk away with tonight, is just sometimes just lay your hand across your mouth. Job says that's going to get me further than anything else, just to give my pitch, turn the engine off on my opinions, and just lay my hand across my mouth, and maybe just turn the ears on and shut the mouth. And so Job says that, and God's not done with him. There's a pause there. God takes a breath, and Job says, right, I submit. And God says, yeah, but hang on, just buckle up again, bucko, because I'm coming again at you. and he's about to do part 2 next week in chapter 40 and 41. The behemoth and the leviathan, 2 very strange animals, again, in the natural realm that God uses to teach and to train Job about himself. Let's leave it off there tonight, shall we? And read Job 40 and 41.